All right, I'm here live today to talk to you about the Tecmo Madison 13 tournament. I'm going to go over my report as far as individual, how I did, and also just some review of the tournament. And I'm excited to do it. There's a lot of hype leading up to the event. Tecmo Madison 13 is the championship of Tecmo Super Bowl and has been now for 13 years. Tournament started by the Hulsbauers and taken over by Dave Murray, Johnny Bailey, and crew. And yeah, let's talk about Tecmo Madison 13. So Tecmo Madison 13, the day of the tournament, went up there, was there the night before, so I was wondering about the parking situation because I did get a spot the night before in the lot, but the lot was kind of small. So me and my brother went there a little bit early. My brother was with me, but he did not play in the tournament. So we went there probably, hour and 15 minutes before the tournament started at 11. And there was no problem getting parking. Not in the parking lot, but there was tons of street parking around the venue. So we parked like a block and a half away, and it was a nice day out. It was still chilly in the morning, but no big deal. And we parked, got to the venue. I wanted to get there early because I was a little bit worried about how tight the quarters might be. But when I got there at like 10 o'clock, there was still quite a bit of room in there. So my biggest thing was just finding what TV I was on. I wanted to try to get in a practice game or two. So it took me a while to find Badger Bowl 15 because it wasn't by all the other TVs that were labeled Badger Bowl. And they named basically the regions off of past places the tournaments have been, which is pretty cool, I think. I didn't actually put that together, but that makes a lot of sense. It's cool. So I finally did find the TV that I was on. It was up against the stage right where they had that setup. Now that's another thing I want to talk about. They had a setup on the stage. It was the best ever. You had a wood TV on the stage with two old school like recliner type chairs, and then that was the game that was streaming or that you could see on the projector screen. It was a excellent setup. Anyone that got to play up there, I'm sure, was loving it. So there was that setup up there. Now, for me, the setup wasn't quite like that. So I was up against the stage. It was a smaller TV, probably like a 13-inch. There were tons of TVs in this place. So, I mean, putting that many TVs in 13 inches, that's the way to go because they're lighter TVs. You got to carry around these heavy CRT TVs. So I was on a 13-incher up there near the stage. Want to get in some practice games. I met Mitch from Wisconsin and his friend Levi. Levi wasn't playing in the tournament. I found that out when I was playing a practice game with him, but Mitch definitely was. He was playing right behind me. So I played Levi a couple games, found out that he was not playing in the tournament, but, he was kind enough to play me a couple practice games. So I got my confidence up playing those games. Levi had some cool playbook options for me that I'm not used to seeing because I was basically practicing against Mort the whole time. So he gave me some different looks. Did good in those practice games, and then I was getting ready for the tournament. So one of the things is there wasn't a lot of space in there, and I know these concerns have already been heard by Dave Murray, so he's promised that Tecmo 14 will not have the space issue, but there was space issues in this location at the High Noon Saloon. My brother was with me. He did plan on drinking and watching me playing the tournament, but once he saw how many people was in there, he decided that he was just gonna wander around Madison, and he's like, I can't, because basically he couldn't really even see me play because the chairs were back to back. And honestly, when my group started, no one could see the TV from any vantage point really, unless they stood on the stage, which I'm sure they didn't want, so I didn't try to do that. But yeah, so my brother was with me. He was going to maybe try to record a couple of my games. He really just wanted to watch me play, but he wasn't able to do that. So after those practice games, there was a little delay in the tournament, and I can understand that for sure. I think we got started maybe at noon. It was supposed to start at 11, but you know, they announced, I believe, that 13 people didn't show up. And when you're running a 292 team player tournament, 13 is a lot to reseed and try to make it fair. I mean, if it's 3 or 4, it's like, oh, we can, you know, figure this out pretty quickly. But 13, yeah, that's a little rough. So 13 different players they had to reseed. So they had to work on that for a little bit, which they did. So thankfully, they had a patio, and outside was beautiful at this point. So I just hung around outside until, you know, till Dave got back on the mic, and then I went back in there. But I think they could have even had it settled quicker if there was more space for the tournament directors to move around, because what I seen is they had to find the TVs that the brackets were posted on and then repost the new ones. Well, you know, it was tough for everybody to move around in there. So, and there was TVs all over the place, including upstairs on the balcony. So I'm sure there was no easy task to find each individual TVs to redo the brackets. So we got started a little late, but that's okay. Once the tournament started, you forgot all about, you know, the situation, and it was all about Tecmo. I mean, if you're there and you're not honed in on playing Tecmo Super Bowl once it started, if all these exterior factors are affecting your play, then you know you might want to look at focusing in more at the task at hand. So tournament started. I couldn't get a vantage point to watch my opponent's first game. So my pool was Badger Bowl 15. We had Jim Bontempo as the first seed. I was the second seed. We had Jerry Foss from Rockford, Illinois as the third seed, and Josh Maurer as the fourth seed. So the first game was Jim versus Josh. And couldn't see the game, but you know, Josh played Jim really close. And I found out that Jim was actually a 2-time winner of the tournament. I didn't know that going in. The first pool I was seated in had a guy, Purple Haze, as the first seed, and I did look up his like online record. But once they changed it, I didn't look. I'm like, you know, if I'm going to win, I'm going to have to get out of my pool anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, Josh played Jim close, 14-10. So I wasn't able to watch that game, but this is the one point in the tournament where I was able to watch a couple games. I did stick around in there because I wanted – my game was next. So I watched Mitch's game that I met from Wisconsin. He looked like he was in a close game with Bengals-Dolphins matchup. I think he lost the game 7-0, but he gave it a good effort. Then I was also watching Nick the Commish's game. He was the guy who ran the tournaments the night before. So I watched his games, or his first game, and he was playing a Bucks-Rams matchup. And he was in a, you know, back and forth match, and then at some point his opponent fumbled twice in a row, and he was pissed. You know, I forget if he just like slammed his controller against his knee or threw the controller down, but he was definitely mad after that second fumble, because that was a good game, and I think that was a 1-4 matchup. So, but Nick the Commish came up on top of that game. So once those games were over, I was ready to play my first game. And my first game was against Jerry. Jerry was a cool guy, kind of swole dude from Rockford. And, you know, he liked to talk a little bit when he plays, and I like that. So I won the coin toss, and I believe, well, I don't remember actually who wins the coin toss in all of these, but I ended up picking the matchup. So I picked Bengals-Dolphins. I really like playing with the Dolphins. And so my strategy was to go up against as many teams with the Dolphins as possible, giving maybe the other team a little bit of advantage because I think the Bengals are a little bit better than the Dolphins. But Jerry went with the Dolphins, and so that gave me the Bengals, balanced offense, David Fulcher on defense. Long story short, in this one, he really didn't get anything going in this game. One point, it was 17-0. This is the one thing that there were a lot of people saying because of the tight quarters, the tight space in the facility, that some people were bumping them or their TV, which was causing them to mess up in the tournament. This is the one instance where I did notice it. Someone did bump our TV or our table, and it was an old Nintendo, so the RF cable kind of shook, and it was like snow. So it was like the Sega Genesis version of the game. And it screwed me up on that play, but I was up 17-0, so it really didn't affect me. So this game between me and Jerry, he did have – the one advantage he did have on me was his tapping. He was able to out-tap me the majority of the time in this game, but he was the Dolphin, so he really didn't have the pass progressions to get the guys – in position to where he could out tap me, and the running game is just kind of slow. So the final score ended up being 31-14. He did get a couple touchdowns, including a JJ, and then he out tapped me to score a touchdown the last play of the game. So 31-14, took care of Jerry. So now it's down to, because it's a double elimination for four-player pool, and so it was Jerry versus Josh at this point. And we decided they should play first because it's an elimination game, and then me and Jim would play. That game, again, I couldn't see the game, but oh, no, actually, I think me and Jim played first because we said theirs would be elimination games. Yeah, so me and Jim played first. So Jim, I wasn't able to see his first game, so I was going in blind. I was able to pick the matchup again, and I stuck with the original plan, which was pick the Dolphins versus many teams I felt I could beat. So I picked Dolphins-Chiefs, and Jim went with the Chiefs. So we played this one. I got off to a slow start. I have a tendency to do that offensively, is my play calling just sometimes will suck on the first drive or two. And it takes me a while to get into the game for some reason. So in this game, Marino didn't give me anything extra. So, passes where guys were open, they were catching it. But with Marino, you expect a diving catch, a covered catch, just a couple. And I didn't get any of that this game. At one point, it was 21-7. The thing about Jim is he has very gutsy play calling, because I couldn't get a hang of what he was doing. If I was able to see his first game and look at how he plays, I might be able to judge his play calling better. But since it was just a first matchup, it was like between two plays I would pick on defense to blitz in, and he would pick the other one that I didn't pick. So it was tough for me to stop him. At one point, it was 21-7, and he made a mistake onside kick, and I got that back, a short field, because it was like third quarter. He's up 21-7, and then he onside kicks it. So then I get the ball, short field, score really quick, 21-14. So now it's still a game because it's still the third quarter. So I kicked the ball off to Jim, 21-14. Still can't get a hang of his play calling. Jim goes down, scores a touchdown, 28-14. So I get the ball back in the fourth quarter. There's still time left, but, at this point, I'm just throwing it up and nothing. Marino didn't give me any extra things that you would expect Marino to give you. And that's where the game ended, 28-14. So double elimination, fair enough. I didn't have my best game. I did notice, though, in this game that I was able to out-tap Jim, and that's not very common that I'm able to out-tap someone, at least versus guys that I go up against. I feel like maybe, somewhere in 25 to 35% of the people I play I can out-tap. So I did notice that in the first match. So then we had Jerry and Josh play. They were also in our pool. Jerry versus Josh. This was another close game. Didn't see it, but got the final score, and it came down to a field goal. Jerry beat Josh 17-14 on a last-second field goal. 17-14, Jerry gets the win over Josh. So I feel bad for Josh because Josh played 2 good games. He went up against the 1 seed first game. He lost 14-10, and they both said it was a close game. Second game he plays, it's 14-14. It's neck and neck, and he loses by a last-second field goal. So I always wonder, players like that, obviously they should still feel pretty good about their tournament performance, even though they didn't get a win. But I just, wonder where he's coming from and if he felt like that was worth it. But, Josh was very good. And, again, I was in a pool that had players that could play. So Jerry beats Josh. I end up playing Jerry again. So I play him. My confidence is obviously up versus him after beating him 31-14 in the previous round. So this time, I think I win the coin toss, but I want him to choose the teams. So he chooses the teams, and he goes with Falcons, Steelers. Now, usually I pick the Steelers because I think they're the better team overall. Their defense is sick. But I did just play Jerry, and I felt like I could shut down his passing game with just Deion Sanders and call run most of the time. So, he did a smart thing in his playbook. He picked 2 plays that ran up to Deion Sanders so that there would be blockers going towards him. So there was the sweep up that he had, and then he also had the off tackle up. But the thing is, he didn't disguise that play. So I knew exactly when that play was coming. So usually I would just guess the sweep up in this game. So I went with them. The other reason I went with them is I'm thinking Andre Rison, the 2 times he scored on me in the last game were a diving catch with the Dolphins and a JJ. So I'm like, I'm not giving him a chance to throw anything up to Andre Rison, because if he just throws up attempted bombs the whole game to Andre Rison, then I'm at risk in this game. So I feel like I could get him with the Falcons, even though I didn't think about this matchup a lot going into the tournament. And also, the Falcons have a faster running back. The Steelers really don't have anything really good on offense, except maybe Bubby Brister's passing speed, if you even leave him in the game. A lot of people don't leave Bubby Brister in the game. So we played this game. He really didn't get anything going on offense, and I did just enough on offense. At one point, the score was 7-3. He did get a field goal, or it might have been 14-3. I can't remember. But we went back and forth. He wasn't able to get anything going with his passing game. And like I said, he was able to out-tap me, so he could move the ball a little bit in the running game. But with the Steelers, he got 38 max speed running backs. So they're not going to break anything big on you, especially when you got Deion Sanders chasing them down. I did get a JJ pick with Deion Sanders in this one. I could have won 21-3. I ran the red gun 4 shotgun play. Sean Collins did the slant. He was wide open, threw to him in the red zone, and he actually just dropped it. There was no one even on him. So end up winning this game 14-3. Jerry played it tough. Pretty good defense in this one. He did step up his defense from the game before. I felt like I could have. There was scoring opportunities that I didn't take. Or I think I threw 1 pick in the red zone. But 14-3. So I'm moving on to play Jim again. So Jim, I still felt pretty confident versus Jim Boncampo, Air Boncampo as they call him, because I couldn't get his play calling down in the first game. So this time I'm up against Jim. It's an elimination game for me, not for him. So I win the toss, I believe. He thought he won, so he called Cowboys Cardinals right off the bat. So I actually like that matchup. So I'm like, you know what? You could pick the teams, because I figured he would just call the same matchup, and he did. He called the same matchup. So I took the Cowboys, of course. I think the Cowboys are a little bit underrated. The Cowboys on defense, they have strength in the secondary. They have at least one good linebacker, Jimmy Jones, and then they have some strength on the defensive line. Offensively, they have just enough to get the job done. Aikman's got a little bit of passing speed with 50, and Emmitt Smith has that 56 maximum speed, with Jay Novacek is your top reception guy, the tight end. So I went into this game against Jim Von Kempo. To start the game, I start off slow. I receive, I have to punt the first play. He marches down the field. He leaves me in a situation where it's 4th down. He's going for it in his red zone. I dart at his quarterback because I know he could get the first down. I'm like, maybe he'll miss this throw. He throws a deep ball down, scores a touchdown. There you go. 7-0, I'm down, and I receive the ball. So next drive is better for me, but Jim had excellent red zone defense, and I have to settle for a field goal. Still time left. He scores another touchdown. 14-3, I'm down, and I have to punt the ball off to Jim. So it's not looking good. But I did remember when I was playing all those practice games with Mort that there were games where he got up, and I surprised myself on defense. I was able to get back into some of these games. Not saying that I won most of them, because I surely didn't, but I was able to get back into the game. So 14-3, kick the ball off to Jim, Arizona Cardinals, and right off the bat, he ends up like draining clock, like in the third period, the start of the third period. So he's waiting until the clock goes all the way down. And I think, this mindset is what allowed me to start this comeback. So I see he's doing this, and then his offensive line stops blocking well. And I see that too. So I'm guessing pass, and I'm still shutting down the run with just my user, which I'm usually switching between the two corners on the Cowboys. And so the first drive, stop him. He has to punt. March down the field. He has good red zone defense again. I don't want to kick a field goal because I know what the situation is, and I see that he's draining clock. But it was like 4th and long, so I kick a field goal. Kick off to him again. Same thing. He's draining clock a little bit, but he gets nothing going. Another 3 and out. So punts the ball away. March down the field again. Jim, good red zone defense. Don't get in the end zone. Obviously, I wanted a touchdown here to make it a 2-point game, but it just doesn't work out. There's still a lot of time left on the clock, I feel like, so I kick another field goal, 14-9. So this was one of the biggest drives of the game. So I kick the ball off, and I get him on a huge sack, I think on a shotgun play. So then he's down pinned against like his own 2-yard line. He calls the sweep down. He's been gutsy. He's been calling that play a lot. So I call it, and bam, safety. Now it's 14-11, and I'm getting the ball with plenty of time in the fourth quarter, probably like 3 to 4 minutes of Tecmo time. So receive the ball, and I'm marching down the field pretty much no problem. It comes down to like I'm on the 5-yard line, and there's like 10 seconds left, and I'm down by 3. So I could either go for the win or the tie, but the way the momentum was going, I just went for the field goal. So I kicked the field goal, bam, we're going to overtime. And I think Jim's a little bit shocked at this point. He's probably questioning his decision on letting the time go down, because he was moving the ball great in the first half. And so I win the coin toss. It took only 2 or 3 plays. I broke a big run with Emmitt Smith, got down to the 30, kicked the field goal, and bam, huge comeback. 17-14, I beat Jim. This is the game that makes your tournament. You're like, I'm on the brink of elimination. I've already lost to Jim once. I beat only the same guy twice. And, I'm down 14-3. But this was a great comeback. And, Jim gave me props during and after the game. He's like, wow, what a comeback. So I tell him, like, give me 5 minutes to catch my breath after this one, because that was a heart pumper for sure. So I get the win there. And then now me and Jim are going against each other in an elimination game. So at this point, I am 3-1 in the tournament. So we play the next game. Don't remember who wins the coin toss. I think we kind of screwed up which player was which player in this one, because we just got we weren't thinking. We just got through like a really intense game. So I ended up picking the matchup in this one, and I think about it for a while. Because I could out-tap Jim and I was killing him with Emmitt Smith at the end of the last game, I'm thinking I got to go with 2 running teams, even though I usually am more of a passer. It just wasn't my advantage on Jim. Jim's a good passer. They call him Airborne Tempo for a reason. He's won the tournament twice for a reason. So I decide that I'm going with 2 running teams. I go with Broncos Chargers. My philosophy behind this is either way, I'm getting a good running back, 63 max speed. The other thing is, I feel like me and Jim were back and forth. There's been like no turnovers in our games. So I'm like, we got 2 bad quarterbacks. Either way, I could maybe force him into a mistake that could change the whole game. So he actually ends up picking the Broncos, which I was a little bit surprised about. But I see why he did it, because, Jim's a pretty conservative player, and, John Elway has that 25 max speed, so he could get a little bit more yardage in the running game if nothing's open. So even though the Chargers have the advantage on defense, Jim goes with the Broncos, and they're 2 pretty evenly matched teams. There's both quarterbacks have fast pass speed, so you can really go either way on it. But he picks the Broncos. So I get the ball, and I usually have trouble starting off the return. My first drive, I usually have trouble with it. So I get the ball, and I just totally run it down his throat. I probably ran, if it took me 8 plays to score, I ran 6 or 7 of them, and I got in the end zone. I'm like, after that game, the way it came back, I'm like, I have to beat him this game. So 7-0, I'm up right off the bat. So then Jim comes down with his own drive, and it's a clean drive. I'm making him earn it down the field. He's not getting down there quick. It comes down to, I forget if it was 3rd or 4th down. It might have been 4th down. I don't exactly remember, but he was probably on his 5-yard line. He ran the red shotgun 4. I pick the play, and I dart towards so I'm blitzing in. I dart towards the running back. That's usually the easiest outlet on that play. And Jim decides, he's going to throw it to the receiver that runs across. He just wants to throw it out of bounds. Elway has 31 pass control. It's not good. So he goes a back up to just throw that, and Elway throws a touchdown, and I'm just like, no, you got to be kidding me. I picked the play. How did Elway gun that in there? Usually the receiver is still moving, and the throw just goes out of bounds. So he scores a touchdown there. That was an opportunity missed. So Elway came through huge from there. 7-7 ball game. So we end up trading touchdowns after that. I know my next drive, when it was 7-7, he got me into a 3-and-out. No fumble or anything. I just tried to run because I was so confident, and I think he started calling run. And so 3-and-out, I had to punt. So he ends up scoring the next touchdown. He's up 14-7. I come back with a touchdown of my own. I mix it up a little bit more. I go back to some of my passing game. And Billy Joe Tolliver, I just try to hit the stationary receivers. I never put any ball at risk this whole game. I played really clean. There was nothing that I left out there hanging to dry with Billy Joe Tolliver. So 14-14, he's got the ball, in the 4th quarter, starting the 4th quarter. He's driving. There's another play on this drive where I call red shotgun 4. So I guess this play again. I pick Seal, the top corner, and I go straight for his outlet, which is the running back, Bobby Humphrey. So he ends up throwing it there, and I'm like, oh, I got a chance here. This is going to be a huge pick. Bobby Humphrey diving catches the ball, and it's only a 1-yard gain, so that wasn't the significant part. It was just the fact that, you know, it was hard to bait Jim into any type of mistake. So those were the two, the touchdown play and this one where I could have, you know, it could have went either way. I could have got an interception because I went right for him and he caught the ball. So the drive keeps going, and it gets to a weird point in the clock where it's like, you know, it's like between 3 and 2 minutes, and, you know, I could have probably stopped him on the play he scored on, like at least, you know, 3 yards to go, but I let him go, and I have like 2 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock to score a touchdown and try to tie the game. But the way it was going, I just felt like I should have him score. You know, there weren't any fumbles that changed hands or anything. So get the ball back. I have enough time to score, but I'm the Chargers, so I'm not going to get too lucky in the passing game. I drive down the field with running plays, passing plays. I get to, I want to say, about his 40-yard line with 19 seconds left. I'm thinking about putting in Vlasic, but I got no timeouts left. I just kind of call a pass play, and this ends up being the last play of the game. So I got Billy Joe Tolliver, pick a pass play, throw it up to Quinn Early. Should have thrown it up to Anthony Miller, but, you know, Quinn Early was the guy going deep. And, you know, it didn't even – he did dive for it, but he was like maybe 3 yards shy of the end zone. So even if he caught it, he would have been tackled. And that's where the game ended. 21-14. That was the best back and forth game that me and Jim played. And wow, it was a dogfight in our pool for sure. And I had fun playing against Jim. Jim was a great guy, just like the other two guys in my pool. After the game, you know, he was probably a little bit shook by the challenge he got, but he's cool. He bought everybody a shot in the beer in the pool because he was ready to move on to the next round and see what he could do. But I went 3-2 in the Tecmo Madison tournament. I come away again with a winning record, but just don't make it out of the pool play. Last year it was DT in Tecmo 12 that took me out twice. So I was a 3 seed in that tournament, but I took everyone else out, and it just came down to me and him. And so he took me out. So this year, same result, 3-2. Couldn't get out of pool play. I always think about my skills being like top 100 Tecmo Super Bowl player. I don't think that's too out of, you know, I don't think that's too out of the realm, because if you think there's 72 pools and I'm a second seed, then I'm somewhere in between 72 and 140, something like that. So good game by Jim. Did have a lot of fun playing in my pool, but now I held to my word. I didn't drink the day of the tournament, and I got eliminated, so now it's time to have a good time. So I went outside. I met a lot of cool people this day. I met Lou Ragus. He's the one who wrote the article interviewing the developers of the Tecmo Super Bowl game, which is a really cool article. I met Chris, who was commenting on my YouTube channel, rooting me on against Mort, even though Mort was beating me up. I met D Clem1, forgot what his name was, but I did email him to see if he wanted to come play with me and Mort. So he was a cool guy. So I met some of these guys, but I was outside waiting for the rest of the tournament to start because I wanted to see single elimination now. It's do or die. So it took a little bit of time to get the next round started, but there was also a play-in game in there. So I want to say, you know, it definitely took over an hour, but I don't think it, honestly, with that large of a tournament, I don't think it was too long of a wait, especially because, you know, it gave you time to decompress after your pool play. But the thing is, there were a lot of other 1 seeds in the tournament that were telling me how their point differential was so high. I think Rico was one of the guys who told me, like, yeah, he's like, my opponents didn't even score on me. So he ended up being the 1 seed in the bracket play. And yeah, so we're just waiting for the tournament to start. I was excited for it. People started clearing out a little bit, hanging out outside. We're able to move the tables in to get a little bit more room. And this is when I got, this is when I got comfortable in there. Still had a little bit of a man sweat stench, you could imagine, but there's a lot more room for spectating at this point. And so the tournament starts. So the way this tournament works is 70, I believe 72 people made it in. So there's some play-in games, and then it goes to 64, 32, 16, and those are all single elimination. And once you get to the Elite 8, it goes to a double elimination tournament. So the first round, I want to get a game on video because there's so many good games in these single elimination rounds that you just don't see, because the stream's only covering 1 game. And the stream's another thing I want to talk about, but I'm going to talk about the single elimination games first. So the first game, Jim in my pool actually ends up playing Mort's brother, Lewis, and I want to video that game, but I couldn't find them in time, and they were already started. So then I found Mort, and he's playing Viking Mo, so that's a great matchup right there. And I got that video on the channel, so if you want to check that out, it's not the best quality or anything, but you can see the game. I didn't try to commentate on the game because I had to stand like right behind the players, and I didn't want to distract them. So it's just basically the game videoed on my phone. But yeah, so Mort got a close win there, 24-21. These are intense games. The next round I end up videoing Ryan Stewart's game, Ryan P11 or Ryan 11P. He's one of the guys that's announces sometimes, and he was announcing at the Tundra Bowl, and he's playing up against Mort's brother. That was another great game that came down to the last play, so I was glad I got that one on video. And Lewis came up on top of that one by a field goal. And then the last game that I videoed, so I decided I was just going to be done after single elimination rounds video and anything, because Elite 8, it's just there's so many more games after that. So Lewis ends up going against Joey Gatz. Joey Gatz is a guy who won the tournament last year, and he ends up winning the tournament this year as well. But Joey Gatz, man, I remember playing him when he first started playing online. That's when I was playing a lot. It's probably like 7 years ago or so. He just has crazy skills with the way he moves the players. Like his thumb is at 1 with the D-pad. It's unreal. So he ends up going against Lewis, and he gets off to a huge start. He's up 21-0. Lewis fights back, but the final score is 31-14. He loses. So I kind of was keeping an eye on Joey Gatz's games because he won the tournament last year. First round, he's up on stream. He beats Aaron Toner, the kid. He made a name for himself last year, 24-0. Next round, he plays Rico. Rico's #1 seed in the tournament, and he beats him 19-0. So, Joey Gatz is having his way with people, and he's on some next level Tecmo. So at this point, I decide, I had a good time at the tournament. I had a bunch of beers. Good thing my brother was just roaming around. He was coming back at this point, but he was roaming around Wisconsin and stuff. And, he's able to drive home. I watched maybe one game in the Elite 8, but I decided it's time to go, get home at a reasonable hour. So we leave, and then it's time to watch the stream. So watch the stream on the way home, and it was pretty cool, to be honest. What I saw on the stream was everything positive. The play-by-play announcer, Jim Casca, I believe was his name, he was really good. And what I thought was funny is by the end of the tournament, he probably knew more about the game than some of the players in the tournament, probably half the field, because he was saying things by the end like, oh, based off Brewdog's analysis of the game or mining of the game, we know that player one has a better chance to get the onside kick. So he was saying stuff like that, which I'm sure players in the tournament didn't even know. So he caught on really quick, and they were mixing in guys that were filling in, like the color commentator. So, you know, they had like Retro Nathan on, they had Ryan on, and then Johnny Bailey most of the time. So they all did a good job. I kind of like that format because what Jim offered is he kept the guys in line. And, you know, if they started going off on like a tangent, then he's just like, oh no. He's like, let's talk about the defensive strategy. So he was good for that, and he had a good voice for it too. So I think that was a really good idea to have him in announcing for the tournament. And I also got a chance to rewatch the stream, and the first graphic that came on, like Tecmo Madison, it kind of looked like it was like NFL on Fox, and that was really cool graphics. I don't know who was responsible for that, but I thought that was awesome. So I watched the stream on the way home, and there were some good games. I had no problem connecting to the stream over LTE. I can't remember exactly all the games I watched, but the ones I was looking forward to are obviously Joey Gatz and Regulator. Their first game, they kind of like reset the game. I don't know what the issue was, but they reset the game, and then they started over, and Joey Gatz ended up beating Regulator the first time. And everyone believes that Regulator's the best player, and there's no reason not to think that. But first game they played, Joey Gatz did beat him. And the Final Four came down to, after all the Elite Eight, the Final Four came down to Chet, Nurm, Joey Gatz, and Regulator. I should have looked who the rest of the Elite Eight were. I think Distomaster was one of them. Yeah, I would have to check on that. But that was the Final Four because I caught those games. And, you know, Chet's the guy who's won the tournament twice, and he's looked at one of the best players. And, you know, he played like it too. Nurm I never really heard of before, but he played great, and I think he got third place in the tournament. So the tournament did come down to Joey Gatz and Regulator, and that's pretty much what everyone probably wanted to see because Joey Gatz won last year, and Regulators looked at as the best player in the game. So they play a Raiders-Eagles matchup, and I was just getting home at this time, so I didn't see the beginning of the game. But when I turned it on, it was just so weird what was happening in the game because Joey Gatz was just getting safety after safety. And I see why, because the Eagles have a horrible offensive line, one of the worst in the game, if not the worst. And the Raiders have one of the best D lines, so they're just getting in. You know, Regulators run around with QB Eagles, and you could get away with a lot. Versus the Raiders, it's a little bit tougher. So he ends up beating them pretty handily, and pretty much due to everything in the second half, because I think the first half was only like 7-2. Joey Gatz was losing. So Joey Gatz wins again, second year in a row. He's undefeated. So I think you kind of have to say he's the best player at this point. But these two guys are definitely the best too. There's no doubt about that. If they played a different matchup, the story might have been different. But the Eagles' offensive line let down Regulator, and that was the final result. Joey Gatz, 2 years in a row, undefeated Tecmo Madison champion. I was also following the Tecmo Super Bowl Facebook page, and what I thought was funny about that is there's still so many guys that generally, you know, the general population that loves Tecmo Super Bowl or remembers it from their childhood, they still think that they can compete at this level just by what they're seeing on the stream, because they were commenting on the stream, you know, saying like, oh, I could take these guys, stuff like that. So maybe we'll have we could grow the tournament based off that Tecmo Super Bowl page, and people that think they're hot stuff could come in and try to come in the tournament and see what they could do. But it's just funny, like, seeing how people think they're so great at the game. I don't know if they're trolling or what, but they're definitely just putting their name out there. So I think that they're pretty serious, because on Facebook, you know, you see the guy's name and picture. So I don't know. Hopefully some of those guys come and try to play in Tecmo Madison 14. Also, you know, I got to meet Brewdog for the first time. He's like the wizard of Tecmo Super Bowl, so it's cool to meet him. He's also a good player. Talked to some other people as well. You know, DT from last year, Odell, talked to him for a little bit. There's a lot of good guys at this tournament. You know, that's what it's about. It's about the community. It's about hanging out with people. You know, the fact that I never met Jim before, but now he's a cool dude. You know, if I see him at a tournament in the future, I'll definitely say what's up to him and, you know, buy him a drink or two. So, you know, that's what it's all about. It's about meeting new people, building some friendships, and you know, I appreciate everybody. There was a few people who came up to me and said, thanks for doing the training videos. And I have to thank Mort really for coming on those. He put a message on Twitter that's like, I'll break down film for people, or if anyone wants to meet, I'm in Chicago. So at that point, I'm like, I gotta hit up Mort and see if he wants to do these training videos with me. So I did that, and he added a lot to those videos. And you're also able to get way better games because it's actually a human versus a human playing, versus me just playing the computer, not really paying attention. So I have to thank Mort for doing those videos as well. Dave Murray was also, he was just so on top of the marketing of this event and the promotion. You know, he lived and breathed this event. And, you know, in his first year taking it over, I think he did an excellent job. Besides for, you know, the fact that the location wasn't the best as far as space, you know, everything else went good. I mean, you're going to expect delays in a tournament like this. You can't be like, oh, took an hour to start. I mean, this is going to happen. The tournament ended at 11 p.m. You know, it's a Saturday. Everything went pretty good. Dave did a good job. The day of the tournament, he was going around. He had a smile on his face. He's just making sure everyone's happy, having a good time. He's talking to people. So yeah, you know, Dave, Johnny Bailey, I think he was the director, and they had other people helping them. The ladies at the registration table were both really nice, you know, trying to give you the best information they can. So yeah, it was just a good event, good people overall. If you want to prove that you're the best at Tecmo Super Bowl, Tecmo Madison is the time to do it. Come on down, Tecmo. Come on down to Madison, Wisconsin, and try to prove you're the best. That's all I could say. Overall, I had a good time with Tecmo Madison 13. I love doing the training videos and just building up hype for the event, because, you know, it's just something I'm interested in. And yeah, so it was a really cool event, and I would just recommend it to people who want to prove that they are the best at Tecmo Super Bowl. But you're definitely probably going to have to get through guys like Mort and Joey Gatz and Regulator, Chet, Josh Hausbauer, guys like this. So yeah, so overall, I just want to thank everyone who came on down to the tournament and everyone who threw the tournament. It was a good time, and I think I've talked long enough. So if you checked it out live, thanks. If you check it out after, the report review. Just let me know what you thought, and have a happy Easter.